video is all about recovery from addiction to substance and behaviour. My addictive substance, alcohol, so a recovering alcoholic or addict, depending on how you look at alcohol. It became a drug for me, and was the most, I suppose, available drug for anyone. I suppose it does depend on what we call drugs, but I suppose it becomes a drug for me when it becomes an issue of dependence and then addiction. So I became dependent on alcohol and then became addicted to it 24/7. Sometime around about 2001 I would classify myself as completely addicted and 24/7 drinking, and I didn't know how to get out of it, and I had no clue. Every day got worse, and prior to that there had been many hospital emergencies, and I've been in intensive care. Oh, all those things. So, one day at a time, in recovery for some time, and making an attempt to make life work. I think I might start again. No, I won't start again. I was rambling there. Anyway, addiction to substance or behaviour. Yeah, alcohol, behaviour, equally addictive. People, places, things turned out to be work, relationships, and anything material. So there was something up with me, or down with me, at extremes of up and down. And it was about trying to fix myself, trying to fix the way I felt inside, which was empty and unfulfilled. So a gap, and I never realised that the gap could be developed into something rather wonderful. That is, it was there for a good reason, to put good things in. So I understood what I was feeling, why, and what I could do about it, and how others were feeling, why, and what we could do together. So it comes down to how to love, be loved back, and useful in life, and find happiness and joyfulness if we can, and also sadness as life offers. Yes, it is about ups and downs, but not at extremes all the time, or trying to fix ourselves in some way in recovery. So what have I learned over the last few years? Well, simply to take life as it is, and then understand how I feel about it and what I may do. So I have feelings which I come to understand, I reflect on them, and ask myself that question, like today, how am I feeling, why, and what can I do? And today has been a bit of a disruption this morning. I got up early, didn't feel quite right, wasn't sure about my blood sugars. I'm type 1 diabetic as well. One of the gifts of being alive long enough to get diagnosed with something else, and then something else again. So my blood sugars, it's good if they're 6.5, that's the average for most humans. 6.5 is the level which I'm looking for. And sometimes it goes a bit high, and like this morning it went down to 2, which is rather dangerous. So I had to do some corrective action which involved drinking a very sweet drink quickly, so I didn't go unconscious. But the problem is, when that happens, you know, it's a near miss really, and a close call, because if I didn't really realise what was going on, and sometimes I don't, I could end up unconscious on my own, and the consequences of that are quite alarming, because if I haven't got enough blood sugar in my liver, or glucose in my liver to recover, then it's lights out permanently. So there are trials and tribulations in recovery. So do I feel resentful about it? No. I was reflecting, looking out the window, thinking, well, that was a close call. And it is, and somehow I don't fear it really, because if I'm living in the moment and I can do something about it, all well and good. But if I couldn't do something in the moment about it, I wouldn't know. So I can't worry about what has not happened. It may seem a bit strange, probably alarm my family to know that. But the point is, if I'm living in the moment of what is going on, and I ask myself that question, how am I feeling? I check my blood sugars and they're 2. I've got to act quickly, because if I don't, then it is lights out. So recovery is extremely important to me. Being sober, how would I manage diabetes? It's supposed to be self-managed, but I'm not too good at it sometimes. partly because of another condition, clinical depression, and working out what is going on can be quite difficult. So recovery is of paramount importance, and in recovery, not a self-inflicted wound, type 1 diabetes, and not a self-inflicted wound, clinical depression, which was probably partly behind why I drank in the first place. So there can be loads of reasons, but the most important thing is to live in the moment of now, so we can do something about it. So if we're fretting about the future, we're missing the present, and if we're stuck in the past thinking, oh my God, why isn't it like it used to be, where I can enjoy my drinking? And the answer is, I never did, really. It put me at extremes of behaviour and trying to fix myself. So these days, the simple fix is not to fix, to accept powerlessness over alcohol and get on with life as best I can. So what helps me? A fellowship, Alcoholics Anonymous. It's full of unique, authentic people for whom I do not speak and never can, never will. I never want to. It's a fellowship of individuals who get together for one primary reason, a desire to stop drinking and then stay stopped, and then share experience, strength and hope. So I share here the AA preamble, which reads as this: Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety, and also make sure that we look after ourselves as best we can. So I will have to rest a bit because my head is a bit fried by starvation of blood sugars, or the right amount of sugar in my blood. Anyway, the daily reflections, this book always helps me when I'm feeling a bit out of sorts. It gives me something to chew on or reflect upon on a daily basis, and April is all about step 4, fearless moral inventory, and also about tradition 4. And it says here for April 28th, 2 magnificent standards. All AA progress can be reckoned in terms of just 2 words, humility and responsibility. Our whole spiritual development can be accurately measured by our degree of adherence to these magnificent standards. So humility and responsibility, which is about equality, understanding and being part of, and responsibility for sharing a message of experience, strength and hope. To acknowledge and respect the views, accomplishments and prerogatives of others, that is, to be able to accept where other people are, and to accept being wrong, shows me the way to humility, that is, accepting when I'm wrong. To practice the principles of AA in all my affairs guides me to be responsible. Honouring these precepts gives credence to Tradition 4 and to all other traditions of the Fellowship. Alcoholics Anonymous has evolved a philosophy of life full of valid motivations, rich in highly relevant principles and ethical values, a view of life which can be extended beyond the confines of the alcoholic population. To honour these precepts, I need only to pray and care for my fellow man as if each one were my brother. And for me, that's extraordinarily important, because it's practicing these principles of living ethically, open, honest and willing, seeking the truth of now, and learning from the wisdom of other people, so I may be loved, so I may love others, and do something useful. So part of what I do is share information about what is AA on these videos, and it helps me understand where I am today. So the Serenity Prayer, which is always my guide when things are going right or wrong. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference is always, for me, just for today. From addiction to substance or behaviour, my addiction to alcohol, my behaviour, workaholic, relationshipaholic, gymaholic, any old holic. and the ism of trying to be perfect, probably, and never so, and always feeling a bit less than and fearful, able to put on a brave face and do what you asked me to do, and often that meant I would strive to achieve beyond the average and excel, and sometimes I did, and sometimes I fell way short of the mark. And where I probably fell way short of the mark was around courage, faith and confidence on a daily basis to make my choices which were for me and not necessarily for my career or for whatever it is I was up to, and wanting to fit in. So where is the ism in me these days? Well, it's the one-day ism of being in recovery from addiction to alcohol and behaviour which would be unhelpful, and the gift is we learn a little bit more wisdom each day how we may be in life. What helps me most, now I've got to a place of recovery, is being in fellowship, and that fellowship is the fellowship of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. I do not speak for it. It has unique, authentic people who can speak for themselves when and if they want to, and it's not my job to promote or attract anyone to a fellowship. I'm just telling people how it helps me, or sharing. No, I don't want to tell people, I just want to share how fellowship has helped me just get my life back one day at a time. So it would be imprudent of me to speak on others' behalf, but it would be very prudent of me to share what is working for me. And I believe that Alcoholics Anonymous is going through evolutionary change as society changes, sometimes with a revolution. AA does it with an evolution, because it's full of people who have an opinion, an attitude, an outlook, which is theirs. It's unique, authentic, and it must be so. Otherwise, what is the point? So we have one similarity, and in the AA preamble, which is a statement at the beginning of each meeting I go to, of which there are 600 or 700 in London. Don't go to them all, not enough time, and I need a life as well. So the preamble goes like this for people who attend fellowship meetings. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And in that statement it really is emphasising that we get well listening to the experience, strength and hope of other people, and then make our lives work in family, community, society, career, whatever it happens to be, where we have endeavours to do. And endeavouring is really what the whole programme is about. It's striving to be where we are, in balance with our emotional, spiritual and physical well-being. So I lean on fellowship hard to get wisdom, experience, strength and hope, and I also lean on other institutions when I need to, professional medical help, and of course I'm part of a family, and of course I have relationships, so it's all to the good if I can keep in balance just this one day. And the beauty of recovery is that's what it is. AA gave me 12 steps of action, and they are suggestions, not rules, and there are 12 traditions which hold the fellowship together. So 12 steps around open, honest and willing, how to live, and 12 traditions all around recovery, unity and service. And I've been to a couple of meetings this month, this last week or so, all about tradition 4, which reads: each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups, or AA as a whole, which means that, you know, if you are a part of a meeting, it's your home group as such. That group can run its meetings as long as it's in tandem, if you like, with the traditions of AA, and they are suggestions too. And you know, we're not, AA is not being a part of AA is not being obedient. It's an observation and a working out of how to be unique, authentic, and deal with this one similarity we all have, which is to be sober one day. So I share, as Bill sees it, one of the founders of AA, his words and sayings and wherever they came from, and daily reflections, which is made up of 1 page a day from people who have been in fellowship for many years, and they've been picked out as useful references, if you like. So tradition 4, the group autonomy. In the past, there were lots of rules and regulations and ideas about how to make AA professional, but it seems really that if one alcoholic talks to another about how to stay sober one day at a time, or do it in groups, we have a better understanding of ourselves and how to be sober, and how to be unique and authentic. So it's not about obedience as such, it's about observing and understanding, then living a life. So, daily reflections for today. And you can tell I'm all for uniqueness, authenticity, and that is also what the fellowship is as an entity. So, April 28th, it says here, 2 magnificent standards. All AA progress can be reckoned in terms of just 2 words, humility and responsibility. Our whole spiritual development can be accurately measured by our degree of adherence to these magnificent standards. So that's humility and responsibility. It goes on to say, to acknowledge and respect the views, accomplishments and prerogatives of others, and to accept being wrong, shows me the way to humility, shows me the way of humility. To practice the principles of AA in all my affairs guides me to be responsible. Honouring these precepts gives me credence to Tradition 4 and all other traditions of the Fellowship. Alcoholics Anonymous has evolved a philosophy of life full of valid motivations, rich in highly relevant principles and ethical values, a view of life which can be extended beyond the confines of the alcoholic population. To honour these precepts I need only to pray and care for my fellow man as if each one were my brother. And you know, what's wrong with that? And being respectful and understanding, and trying not to trample on other people's toes, and keep our uniqueness and authenticity. As Bill sees it, this one, and I'm all right for time, thankfully, willpower and choice. We AAs know the futility of trying to break the drinking obsession by willpower alone. However, we do know that it takes great willingness to adopt AA's 12 steps as a way of life that can restore us to sanity. And it's a way of life, and it's not a graduation. No matter how grievous the alcohol obsession, we happily find that other vital choices can still be made. For example, we can choose to admit that we were personally powerless over alcohol, and that took me a long time. That dependence upon a higher power is a necessity, even if it's simply dependence upon an AA group, that is, wisdom, experience, strength and hope. Then we can choose to try for a life of honesty and humility, of selfless service to our fellows and to God as we understand Him, and that can be your God as you understand it, or as an atheist or agnostic, or as to good conscience. As we continue to make these choices and so move toward these high aspirations, our sanity returns and the compulsion to drink vanishes. But you know, we have high aspirations, but we all know that there's only one step which can be worked on a daily basis, which is 100%, and that's the first one, where we admit we are powerless over alcohol, and life will become unmanageable again if we were to drink. And then from step 2 to 12, and step 4 this month, April, is all about doing a personal moral inventory, and a fearless moral inventory of our assets and liabilities, where our anger and resentments are, and how to deal with them. These 12 steps keep us on a path one day only. So the gift for me, and you know, listening to Tradition 4, there are many people with experience of fellowship, and the gift is simply this: we are able to understand what works for us as individuals, to keep our uniqueness and authenticity, and at the same time to be part of a whole where there is only one primary purpose, and that's to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And this is why I do these videos. I believe wholeheartedly that truth is the sanctuary, that truth is spiritual. Anonymity provides us with sanctuary. And anonymity gives us an opportunity to explore the deep of where we have good qualities and less good qualities. So when we use the serenity prayer each day as a means of meditation, saying, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, what better meditation could we do on a daily basis, just for today?
Hello, Don in London, all about recovery and Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't speak for AA, I speak for myself. However, AA is integral to my daily well-being and here's the AA preamble spoken at all meetings of AA. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is the desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. All about Tradition 4 from the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. I'm doing a share on this tonight at the Boltons, so I thought I'd just share it with you. Tradition 4. Each group should be autonomous, except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. Autonomy is a $10 word, but in relation to us, it means very simply that every AA group can manage its affairs exactly as it pleases, except when AA as a whole is threatened. Comes now the same question raised as in Tradition 1. Isn't such liberty foolishly dangerous? Over the years, every conceivable deviation from our 12 steps and tradition has been tried. That was sure to be, since we are so largely a band of ego-driven individualists. Children of chaos, we have defiantly played with every brand of fire, only to emerge unharmed, and, we think, wiser. These very deviations created a vast process of trial and error which, under the grace of God, or as I say, good conscience, has brought us to where we stand today. When AA traditions were first published in 1946, we had become sure that an AA group could stand almost any amount of battering. We saw that the group, exactly like the individual, must eventually conform to whatever tested principles would guarantee survival. We have discovered that there was such perfect safety in the process of trial and error. So confident of this had we become that the original statement of AA tradition carried with this significant sentence: any 2 or 3 alcoholics gathered together for sobriety may call themselves an AA group, provided that as a group they had no other affiliation. This meant, of course, that we had to be given the courage to declare each AA group an individual entity, strictly reliant on its own conscience as a guide to action. In charting this erroneous expanse of freedom, we found it necessary to post only 2 storm signals. A group ought not do anything which would greatly injure AA as a whole, nor ought it affiliate itself with anything or anybody else. There would be a real danger should we commence to call some groups wet, others dry, still others Republican or Communist, and yet others Catholic or Protestant. The AA group would have to stick to its course or be hopelessly lost. Sobriety has to be its sole objective. In all other respects, there was a perfect freedom of will and action. Every group had a right to be wrong. When AA was still young, lots of eager groups were forming. In a town we'll call Middleton, a real crackerjack had started up. The townspeople were as hot as firecrackers about it. Stargazing, the elders dreamed of innovations. They figured the town needed a great big alcoholic centre, a kind of pilot plant. AA groups could duplicate everywhere. Beginning on the ground floor, there would be a club. In the second story, there would be sober-up drunks and hand them currency for their back debts. The third deck would house an educational project, quite non-controversial, of course. In imagination, the gleaming centre was to go up several stories more, but 3 would do for a start. This would all take a lot of money, other people's money. Believe it or not, wealthy townsfolk bought the idea. There were, though, a few conservative dissenters among the alcoholics. They wrote to the Foundation AA's headquarters in New York, wanting to know about this sort of streamlining. They understood that the elders, just to nail the things down good, were about to apply to the Foundation for a charter. These few were disturbed and sceptical. Of course, there was a promoter in the deal, a super promoter. By his eloquence he allayed all fears, despite advice from the Foundation that it could issue no charter, and that ventures which mix an AA group with medication and education had come to sticky ends elsewhere. To make things safer, the promoter organised 3 corporations and became president of them all. freshly painted, the new centre shone. The warmth of it all spread through the town. Soon things began to hum. To ensure foolproof, continuous operation, 61 rules and regulations were adopted. But alas, this bright scene was not long in darkening. Confusion replaced serenity. It was found that some drunks yearned for education, but doubted if they were alcoholics. The personality defects of others could be cured maybe with a loan. Some were club-minded, but it was just a question of taking care of the lonely heart. Sometimes the swarming applicants would go for all 3 floors. Some would start at the top and come through to the bottom, becoming club members. Others started in the club, pitched a binge, were hospitalised, then graduated to education on the 3rd floor. It was a beehive of activity. All right, but unlike a beehive, it was confusion compounded. An AA group, as such, simply couldn't handle this sort of project. All too late, that was discovered. Then came the inevitable explosion. Something like that day, the boiler burst in Wombley's clapboard factory. A chill, choke damp of fear and frustration fell over the group. When that lifted, a wonderful thing happened. The head promoter wrote to the foundation office. He said he wished he'd paid some attention to AA experience. They needed something else that was to become an AA classic. It all went on a little card about golf score size. The cover read, Middleton Group, Rule 62. Once the card was unfolded, a single pungent sentence leapt to the eye. Don't take yourself too damn seriously. Thus it was that under Tradition 4, an AA group had exercised its right to be wrong. Moreover, it had performed a great service for Alcoholics Anonymous, because it had been humbly willing to apply the lessons it learned. It had picked itself up with a laugh, and gone on to better things. Even the chief architect, standing in the ruins of his dream, could laugh at himself. And this is the very acme of humility. And you know, it's so important for me, Tradition 1, Tradition 4, it's the right to be wrong, it's the right to keep on learning. And life is a learning exercise. So if we understand it's okay to make mistakes, if we understand we aren't going to be perfect ever, and that sort of resounded through the chair I heard last night as well, that the only way we learn to live life is to live it, and practicing life in the ever-present moment is absolutely the key to making things work. And what am I going to talk about tonight? Tradition 4. It's all there in the book, and it's in a very short set of paragraphs. And I'm glad it's in a short set of paragraphs, because I only have 10 to 15 minutes. So in all these things, when we do tradition chairs, it sometimes feels like a very dry subject, but the absolute truth of it is, it's the principles and the traditions that we learn in our living one day at a time as individuals, which we then transfer into our group activities. And as we learn to live as groups, communities who are learning, I suppose, learning on the job. I've forgotten what we called it in the big days of my career. I don't know, action-centered learning, I guess. And why not? Just one day at a time, making mistakes and learning from them. And finally, the paragraph which applies in Tradition 1 for me starts off with, does this mean, some will anxiously ask, that in AA the individual doesn't count for much? Is he to be dominated by his group and swallowed up in it? And he goes on to say, we may certainly answer this question with a loud no. We believe there isn't a fellowship on earth which lavishes more devoted care upon its individual members. Surely there is none which more jealously guards the individual's right to think, talk, and act as he wishes. No AA can compel another to do anything. Nobody can be punished or expelled. Our 12 steps to recovery are suggestions. The 12 traditions which guarantee AA's unity contain not a single don't. They repeatedly say, we ought, but never, you must.